Okay, so I've kind of mentioned how I'm dreadful about picking up more books before finishing one. So, like a week ago, I made this, and I thought I might share it. Thought it might be kind of fun to show off. So, this is my what to read pick list. So named because I plug into a random number generator, go up to, right now it's 41, and I pick based on what it rolls. Instead of a title, it gives me a category of book. So we have number 1, a book that you're reading in audiobook. This doesn't have to be only an audiobook. For some books, I jump between audiobook and ebook or print book so that I can read more often. A book that's less than 400 pages, and then a book that's more than 500 pages. Why isn't it just more than 400 pages? Because the point of this is to narrow down the list. It's not actually to cover everything, unless that everything can be broken into categories that are small enough. I think this narrows it down the furthest right now because I picked Way of Kings back up, a book that you haven't read in over a month. And then we have the sources of books. I live at the intersection of 2 physical library networks. It's fantastic. So one library, the other library, a book from Kindle Unlimited, a book from Libby, a book from NetGalley. Like I said, this isn't about covering everything. This is about narrowing down the list to something that I can successfully choose from. A book you're thinking about DNFing might have to go because right now that's really only one book. And I think I might just DNF it. A book you read less than 10 pages of. That means there's a bookmark in it, but it ain't doing anything. A book that you follow the author or publisher. Follow is left undefined. It could be someone like Brandon Sanderson, who I will blind buy. It could be someone like Shauna McGuire, who I follow on Twitter. A book that has a dust jacket. Obviously a hardback book, but it also excludes some books that are like special editions that don't have dust jackets. A paperback. That narrows it down by a lot, because obviously it excludes every ebook, every library book, and a lot of the books I own. A book that has a face on the cover. A book that does not have a person on the cover. A Court of Mist and Fury would count as having a face on the cover, and also not having a person on the cover. A book with a title that starts with a vowel. Up to me whether or not that includes articles. Like, does A Court of Mist and Fury start with an A because it says a, or does it start with a C because normally we discount articles? Doesn't matter. A book that starts with a letter between N and Z. Again, the reason the first half of the alphabet isn't here is because that's where the most common letters are, other than like S and T. Then we've got a book with a title that starts with an article. A book written by a man. The vast majority of what I have in progress right now is written by women. So I actually took out a book written by a woman because that really doesn't narrow it down. But there are few enough books that I'm reading that are written by men that this actually narrows it down by a lot. Like, it's basically Sanderson and one other dude. A book written by an author you know nothing about. So this would be a lot of my blind buys. A book with a non-matte cover. What I mean by matte is not only is it not glossy, it's smooth and flat. This is kind of the fashion for books now, is to have almost a velvety texture of matte dust jacket, which I personally love. It also very rapidly narrows down what book I might pick up if I say not that. A book where you forget at least one major character's name. I'm really bad with names. This doesn't narrow it down as much as it maybe should. But it does narrow it down. A book that you're more than 100 pages into, or a book that you're more than 50% through. pretty self-explanatory. These are kind of go finish a thing prompts. A book marked with an origami corner bookmark. That's these. They're these little pockets, and they are so fast and easy to make that I've made like 100 of them. I'm not reading 100 books, I don't think. Most of my Own Voices is Own Voices inspired fantasy. By the way, if you've got more Own Voices fantasy, please drop it in the comments because I really like that stuff. A romantasy, a young adult book. A book that has at least 3 more books in the series. Yeah, enough said. The closest book to you right now. A debut. A sequel. A book with a due date. No, this does not say a library book, because NetGalley books have archive dates. A book based on mythology. Also, another thing, just like drop it down there, especially if it's not Greek mythology, because I love like learning different mythologies, different folklores. Just drop it in the comments right there. Just hit that button, type out some titles, and give me more. Thanks. A book you bought after borrowing it from a library. A book you bought without ever having heard of it before. Narrows it down less than it probably should. A book written in first person. A book written in present tense. A book with flashback chapters. A book with multiple POVs. So this is my what to read pick list. This is my attempt to semi-automate my analysis paralysis away. Because if I can narrow it down to a category of books that has less books than I was struggling to choose between to begin with, or that rules out half the books I was struggling to choose between to begin with, well then I win. So that is my list. If I've missed anything or you're wondering why I didn't have a given category on there, go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I think my next video will be going through some of my reading in progress list. Bye.